I was wondering your thought on this in the Eucharist in relation to the family, especially because with Sister Lucia from Fatima, there's that famous quote that she told Cardinal Caffarra, I believe, that the final battle between the kingdom of Christ and the kingdom of Satan would be over marriage and the family. And I get like, what is your? I wanted to ask you, like, how do you keep together your Catholic family? You said you're a father of 4.
Yeah.
I have a little one, and I can't help but think, how do I be a good dad? How do I be a good Christian father to protect my daughter from the evils of the world, but especially because if we do believe that quote, the battle is over marriage and the family, and so the evil one's attacking our families. What's the relationship between Eucharist, the Revival, Holy Hours, and keeping our families intact?
Yeah, I think there's a few thoughts, if you don't mind. I'll share
Please.
These almost might be disconnected. I think on the one hand, like faith retention for kids, right, is often going to come because of the Eucharist. Like they're going to stay Catholic because of the Eucharist. That's why people don't leave the Catholic Church. I think on the other hand, this isn't like a theological leap to say this. Like it almost sounds like sometimes when we're talking about some of these different things that we're just trying to like cram the concept of the Eucharist because it's the Revival into like different things. What the church's theology is that every other like element of the Christian life and every aspect of the church receives its life, meaning, and vitality from Jesus in the Eucharist. That's what we mean by source and summit. Like, so it's the church is confected out of the Eucharist, and the family is like, the Eucharist is the source and summit of family life too. I think practically for me, one of the things we've tried to do with our kids is lead by witness. And storytelling, like tell our own stories of like how we encountered Jesus in the Eucharist, and not just like, kind of cram doctrine down their throats. Both my wife and I grew up in more like traditional, like sort of Catholic backgrounds. And what we saw in there was like a beauty and devotion to like Jesus in the Eucharist. And we're exposed to things like Eucharistic adoration at younger ages. What we also saw sometimes is that if there's too much of an emphasis with kids on sort of like the evils of the world and like sort of a like bunker down mentality, it can be really dangerous over time, like for their faith retention, because it can seem incongruent with, so what we try to do is teach our kids to like, we try to form them well, and help them understand the fullness of the Catholic faith, but we also try to show them that life is worth living, and that life is even in the midst of like all the troubles in the world, that like they were created good and their hearts were made good, and the world is good. It's fallen, but it's good. Like we feel like if we can teach them to love life, and then show that the Catholic faith is part of all of the beauties and longings of their hearts, like all the things they love the most about life, the Catholic faith is right there with them, not pushing against those desires, but actually reinforcing and encouraging and filling those desires of their hearts, the deepest longings that they have. Then they're not going to have this like sort of faith implosion, God willing. Everyone still has free will, right? You can't like force anyone to believe anything, but we feel like we're playing a long game in terms of like, how do you keep them in the faith and help them become saints?